One of the hardest hit countries, and certainly the country that kind of we started taking notice of right away when this whole thing started, was the country of China. It's gone through a lot, and they took a lot of extreme measures. Well, an interesting thing came across the newswire today as I was looking over on Deadline. And Deadline right now is reporting that China has made enough progress that they are now reopening over 500 of their movie theaters as their cases of coronavirus start to ease. Now, if you're asking, well, why isn't it easing here? Remember, they were way ahead of us when it comes to this stuff. They were getting it really bad while we still weren't really noticing it. So they're a little bit ahead of the curve on that. But they're opening. And one of the interesting things, Rob, because we're going to get to this a little bit and how it pertains to North America when we get into the main topics. But one of the interesting things, it says in the report that the Chinese government has mandated that the movies that they open in theaters right now, the movie theaters get to keep 100% of the box office, which is completely rare and unheard of. But I think China just wants to help the theaters get back on their feet quickly, because China recognizes, hey, movie theaters are an important part of culture. We want to help, and they're being very hard hit by this. We want to see them get back on their feet. I got to admit, and maybe it's just me being somebody who's desperately looking for a silver lining and who's desperately looking for some good news, but I see this because, God, I miss going to the movie theaters. But I see this and I think, okay, if China, who got hit hard by this long before we did, blah, blah, if they're at the point now that they're starting to reopen theaters, Rob, am I just being overly optimistic to go, it makes me feel a little bit of hope. It makes me feel like, yes, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe, maybe soon, and I don't mean soon as in next week, but, relatively soon, that maybe at some point we're going to be getting back into the movie theaters. Maybe there's light at the end of the tunnel. Rob, you saw this. What do you make of it?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And remember, I mean, everything that's going on right now, America is at the beginning of this crisis, and we're dealing with it. But when there's a lot of testing going on, when tens of thousands of people are being able to be tested, that's where they can find the virus. And the fatality rate is still luckily small. And when you can segregate the population, and when the virus is discovered, you can quarantine those people. We can eventually get back to going about our business. And I think that China's response after initially being impacted, and what's going on in South Korea, sort of shows that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that as we're ramping up our own response in this country, with people socially distancing and the government stepping in, and I've been very impressed with a lot of the local leadership on the state level. I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to be seeing No Time to Die before November or Fast and the Furious. I'm not going to get my Justice for Han until 2021. But, maybe I'll get to see Tenet. Maybe I'll get to see Dune. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's not all bad. So I do see, John, that, spring has arrived, and the clouds will dissipate. The cold will go away. Flowers will bloom. And eventually this crisis too shall pass, and I will be eating hot buttered popcorn delivered the way you want me to deliver my butter to my popcorn.
And, it's important to point out, look, we understand none of us are going back to the movies next week. We understand that. Maybe not even next month. So when I say soon, I don't mean as in imminently. I just mean, hey, at least at some point there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I like hearing that at any rate. But maybe I'm just being optimistic. Guys, question is, you start to see this news. Does it put things in perspective from you? Do you not really pay attention to it at all? Hey, it's all good. We're in unprecedented times. What do you guys think? Jump into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys.